Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Bonkekook here, aka the Lonely Achievement Guide, coming at you with another 1000 gamer score and achievement guide. Today we're taking a look at the game Perfect Traffic Simulator, published and developed by Prison Games. It was initially released on the 3rd of September of 2020 and is currently purchasable for a price of $9.99. Of course, your currency may vary. So this game is basically what it says. It is a traffic simulator where you have to figure out how to get cars through intersections without hitting each other and getting to their destination on time. At its core, that's what the game is. You're looking at probably 3 to 4 hours for the completion. And right off the bat, I do want to delve into the two different ways to complete the game, because there are a few things you have to keep in mind when you're going through. I have figured out each level and have all the solutions set up for each level, and we are going to show you all of the solutions so that if you want to, you can follow along and almost instantly, get all of the levels completed. Because it is a physics puzzler, there are a couple of levels that may run slightly differently the first time you do them, but I have tested all of these and all of my levels have worked by the second or third run, so you shouldn't have to make any major adjustments going through. However, the problem is, if you notice at the top of the screen there is a time played counter, and the time played counter is related to two achievements. You have to play the game for an hour and you have to play the game for 3 hours. Unfortunately, the time played does not reference actual time played. You can't sit at a menu for 2 hours and come back and have 2 hours played. You can't hop into a level and sit there for 2 hours and have 2 hours played. The time played references the time spent running the simulations. And for the most part, those are like 10 to 15 seconds a piece. So if you're following along with me and getting every level done on your first go, you're only going to have probably 45 minutes, maybe, of time played by the time you're done with all 30 levels, which would mean you would have to grind out the last 2 hours or so. And to do that, you're going to be replaying level solutions over and over and over again. I do have a level that is the best level for grinding that out, but that is entirely up to you if you want to do that. You will be able to grind out some of the time by doing the collisions first, but even with doing grinding out the collisions at the end, you're still looking at probably 2 hours worth of grinding to be done. The other option is to use my solutions as a reference, but go through the game and try to solve the puzzles yourself. If you can't resist the temptation of having the solution nearby, you can eventually give in and use it, or you can just use or solve the puzzles yourself until you get close to the 3-hour mark and then finish off the puzzles with my solution. However you want to attempt it, I would not blame you if that's the route you want to go, and then you could use my solutions as a reference for you as you try to figure out each level, because, as I said, you're running each simulation for like 15 seconds, and you're going to have to run them, a lot. You're looking at 15 seconds per run, so 4 for a minute, and we need 180 minutes, so 720 times you have to run a simulation approximately to get to 3 hours. So it's kind of up to you which solution or method you want to follow to get all of your gamer score. I am not going to tell you to use one or the other either way. I will say that I do recommend you might want to try to solve some of these for yourself, especially the later ones, because those are where you're going to have to run the simulation multiple times in order to figure out the solutions. So that will help build up your time played, but it is entirely up to you. You can, in theory, assuming all of your solutions function, you could use a turbo controller with the A button held down, start up zone 1, start up level 1, and then just have the turbo controller constantly pressing A. because what happens is you go into a level, you press A to run it, as you can see in the bottom right hand corner, A is the button that starts the simulation. It will run and finish, and when it's finished, A is the button that moves you to the next level. So you could, in theory, use a turbo controller to press A to start the level, then move on to the next level, and it would run all 30 levels in order, assuming that everything ran without any issues. I would keep an eye on it, because as I mentioned, it's kind of a physics game, so occasionally something happens that shouldn't, and you'll need to rerun your simulation. So I probably wouldn't recommend it being completely hands-off, but you might be able to, run it in the background while you're working on something else. So but we're going to jump back to the menu here and look at the achievement list. As you can see, we have 12 achievements for 1,000 gamer score. I do apologize. I wanted to get that method stuff taken care of right at the beginning so that you guys know what you're getting yourself into. So we have 1,000 gamer score. I unlocked the achievements on this secondary account in the order that you would if you are using my solutions to solve each level. So right off the bat, you get the adept, I keep saying that, adept achievement for first step. That'll pop when you jump into the first level. Young perfectionist is for getting your first perfect. Perfectionist is for getting 10 perfects. Planner is for completing the first zone. Nobody is perfect is for getting 20 perfects. It's supposed to be tactician is unlocked for getting all 10 levels of Zone 2 completed. Be patient is for playing the game for an hour. Strategist is for completing Zone 3. My name is Nobody is for getting 30 perfects, so perfect on every level. Learn on your mistakes, and because they are proof you are trying, are for getting 50 and 250 collisions overall. And or a doctor is for playing the game for 3 hours. All of that is pretty self-explanatory. I do want to go over a couple things you might run into. I already mentioned the time played at the top of the screen there. You'll notice the game says I have 30 out of 30 perfects. Keep that in mind for something we're going to cover in a minute. But the time played also shows up in each individual zone. Don't listen to it. Only reference the main menu one for your time played. When I was trying to figure out what the game keeps track of for time played, I was running simulations over and over again, and the main menu timer was going up. And the Zone 3 one didn't move at all. So I don't think the individual zone timers are all that reliable, so I don't recommend keeping an eye on them. If you are, running simulations and trying to see how much your time is going up, always reference the main menu time played. And then cars hit is how many collisions you have had. So a note for all of these achievements for the cars hit and the time played, the achievements don't pop until you are past the target. So if you get to 50 cars hit, the achievement won't pop until you get to 51. And the same with 250, if you have to get to 251 for the achievement to pop. And time played is the same. The 1 hour and 3 hour achievements will not pop until you're at 1 hour and 1 minute and 3 hours and 1 minute. So just keep that in mind. You might have to do a couple extra runs to get your achievements to pop. Okay, so that's the basics of the menu here. We're going to jump in and point out 2 different glitches that I had happen to me, in case they happen to you. At the top there, we have 9 out of 10 perfects in Zone 1. So this would make you think that one of the levels isn't perfected, correct? And you would be wrong, because when this game initially came out, and you can go to trueachievements.com and go to the forums for this game, and you'll see that I posted that I was having an issue with perfects registering. Even though the main menu said I had 30, I did not have my 30 perfect achievement. And what ended up happening is there was a level in Zone 3 that I had to replay. And so if you run into that situation where the game is telling you you have all the perfects but you don't have the achievement, your best bet is to just rerun levels and try to make sure that you are finishing the levels with no collisions and with your combo meter built up. And we'll go over the combo meter on the first level. But I wound up having to replay level 25 twice before I got the 30 perfects achievement, even though Zone 1 is the one that says I don't have all 10 perfects. So something to keep in mind. And another glitch that I experienced is when I would finish a level, it would tell me that the next level had already been completed with a perfect, even though I hadn't played it. So I completed level 1, and I would get back to the menu and it said I had 2 perfects because it, for some reason, thought I had already perfected level 2. It didn't affect any achievements, but if that does go happen to you, I just wanted to let you know. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into Zone 1, Level 1, and I'm going to show you how I kind of solve each level. Now, this isn't going to be nearly as explicit as figuring out like Zone 3's levels, but this will give you a basic idea if you're one of the people who would like to solve things for your own, or on your own, how the best way to do that is. So this is what worked for me anyways. So what I tend to do is I go to each row of cars, and for this, the first 10 levels, we have a T set up on the road here, a T intersection. So we're in the upper right hand of the T here. And then if we use the D-pad to hit left, we go to the upper left hand portion of the T. And we're trying to get our cars to follow the green and light blue lines and not hit each other on the way through. So what we're going to do is I usually make both cars that start the rows go all the way forward. And then what I do is I grab the cars in the back and move them far back. On the first couple of levels, you don't need to move them all the way back, but once you get into the level, 20 and higher, some of the cars do need to go as far back as possible. So it's worth doing this general idea on every level. So what we're going to do now is, now that we have our cars in a relatively stretched out position, we're going to run the simulation and see which cars get through the intersection first, and we're going to build our combo based off of that. The combo isn't explained very well, and it doesn't really work as well as I think it is supposed to, but your combo meter builds up when you alternate cars. So if you have all 3 cars from this upper left portion go through, and then all 3 cars from the upper right portion go through, you won't build up a combo because you're not alternating traffic. And which is weird because some of the combos don't really make sense, but your meter still goes up. For example, we will eventually be getting to a solution of this where we have this white police car go through, we have this black car go through, then we have this ambulance go through, and we have this brown car go through, and then the yellow car and the red car go through. And for some reason, even though we stopped alternating at the end, the combo meter still goes all the way up. So if you're trying to figure this out on your own, the best bet is to start and try to alternate cars from each stretch of road, and that should build up your combo meter. But sometimes you have to, you'll have to get 2 cars from the same section through to solve a level. So just keep an eye on the combo meter. The 2 things required for perfecting a level are the 0 cars hit, you can't have any collisions, and your combo meter has to have been built to a 3. As long as you get those, the time really isn't that important. Even our final level 30, we don't hit a perfect on the time metric. We finish the level with 7 seconds, and you're supposed to finish it with 10 to be perfect, but all of the perfects do unlock for us. So just keep that in mind. Combo and cars hit are the important metrics for perfect, and you basically have all the time you need, but I don't have a level that ends later than 7 seconds left, so I can't tell you if 6 or 5, 4 seconds, whatever, would still get you a perfect. But anything over 7 seconds, I was still able to get a perfect as long as I didn't hit any other cars and built up my combo meter. So we're going to go ahead and run this, and we're going to watch. So this white police car gets through first, the black car gets through, the ambulance gets through, and then we have a wreck. So what we're going to do is we're going to back this taxi off here, and we can now hit X. As you can see, we hit the time metric, we hit the combo metric, but we had cars hit, so we didn't get a perfect on that. So what we're going to do is hit X to restart, and we're going to back this taxi off a little bit. And now we're going to run the simulation again. And we still had a bit of a fender bender there. The taxi just rammed into the rear end of the ambulance, so once again, we are going to retry, and we'll hop over here and back the taxi off a little bit. And we're alternating our cars, so we're building our combo meter. And the taxi still hit that ambulance, so we're going to back it off a little bit more. And perfect. There we go. And that's how you're going to figure it out. Now, granted, this wasn't a great level for that, but you're going to keep doing that for every level. Eventually, you will have 4 lanes of traffic you have to get to their destination by crossing each other. So what I typically do is the same thing we just did. We move the first cars all the way forward, we move the third cars all the way back, and then we figure out which cars are faster and we'll get through the intersection the quickest and build our chain based off of that. So if you have, for the later levels, for example, you'll have the 4 cardinal directions. If you have a car from the east go through, and then a car from the west go through, then a car from the north, and then the south, then you're going to want to try to repeat that for the second layer of cars and the third layer. So the east, west, north, south should repeat all the way through. That's how you're going to build up your combo, and that is also a good way to solve the levels. The only thing you will run into in doing that is there are pedestrians on some levels you have to avoid, and if you've built up a chain and you wind up hitting a pedestrian, you sometimes will have to readjust your entire chain in order to avoid hitting the pedestrian, because a pedestrian is an instant fail if you hit one. So, but other than that, the game doesn't get more complicated. It does give you more rows of cars that you have to get through, but the pedestrian is really the only wrench that shows up from here until the end of the game. Other than that, it is literally figuring out how to get the cars to turn across and, you know, weave through each other to finish the levels quickly. So, and to get perfects, that's what you're looking for. Make sure you're keeping your collisions, the cars hit at 0, and your combo meter up. And the time it appears doesn't have to be perfect to get your perfect. So you can reference my level 30 walkthrough if you want to, but we finished that with 7 seconds left, which is 3 bars missing from the time left bar there. And we still got a perfect. So I think the perfection is related to the cars hit and combo meter, not so much the time left, but just focus on getting your cars hit at 0 and combo to 3, and don't worry about the time too much as long as you finish with those other 2 metrics perfect. I believe you are okay. If not, let me know and I can readjust my strategies here. So what we're going to do for each level now is I'm going to show you the positioning for each car, but I'm not going to talk. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, and this police car is all the way forward, and now we have this car bisected by the blue 20, and we go back here, and we have this red car center. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to pause the camera briefly over each car, and then you can pause the video if you need to reference exactly where the car is parked. So we're going to start here on the right portion of the T. And I'm just going to scroll over to each car and briefly stop the camera so that you can pause the video and replicate where my cars are positioned. And then we'll run the sim. And we'll move on to the next level, and I'll do the same thing. So we're in the upper right portion here. And it is worth noting, if you are following along with my solutions, be exact. Like with this police car, make sure that yellow line is bisecting the I in police. On these early levels, it's not as big a deal, but on those later levels, just being off by a little bit can be enough to mess up the solution. So you need to be as precise as possible in replicating the positions of vehicles. Oh wow, we have a wreck. Interesting. Okay, so we have to make a change. I don't know how that happened, but... I don't think I ever changed anything in this level. I apologize for that. Okay, so we're gonna go back here, and I'm gonna re-show off the level 2 solution, just so that the adjustment can be... so that you can make the adjustment to yours. I do apologize for that. I'll link the timestamp here instead of the beginning of level 2, since we screwed that up. Not sure how that happened. Okay. And we will move on here. We're in the upper right portion of the T here. And then we go to the south portion. Now we're in the south portion on level 4 here. And we head up to the west portion. I tend to go clockwise in my solutions, so if most of the time you start in the east and then I'll go southwest north. To show you the solutions. So we're in the east portion here. And we have our first pedestrian there, as you can see, running across the street, but this one's fairly easy to avoid. These early levels are quite easy. We're in the south portion here. I think this is the level. Oop. Yes. So if you watch there, the ambulance looks like it rear ends the SUV at the end there, and but it doesn't count as a collision for us. So, but if it does ever count as a collision for you, just back the ambulance off a little bit. So now we have 3 rows of traffic starting in level 7, and we're starting on the east portion of things. And having 3 rows of traffic doesn't really change anything. It just means you have a 3rd level of traffic you have to deal with. But the strategy does not change for figuring out the level. Unless you have a pedestrian, so you do have to avoid pedestrians. And that will be the tricky part. Because eventually you'll have a pretty good idea of how to make the cars cross over. But you could have your entire chain derailed because a pedestrian decided to run across the road at an inopportune time. So we're starting on the east section here. Yeah, some of the later levels, even the solutions that I have made, there's 2 levels in particular where, for whatever reason, sometimes the pedestrian runs faster, and so occasionally you will run your simulation and you will fail because you hit a pedestrian, and if you run it again, you'll succeed and the pedestrian will avoid being hit. So there are a couple of levels that you may have to run 2 or 3 times in order for the pedestrians to get out of the way. I haven't really figured out how to fix that. I think it has to do with how you start your simulation, but I haven't been able to figure that out from quite yet. The closest thing I found is trying to hit the restart and or retry level and then A button to start the simulation very quickly, and that seems to make the solution run as intended. Whereas if you take a while for some reason, the cars start faster than the pedestrian, and so the pedestrian is slow and winds up getting hit. We'll try to go over that whenever we get to one of the levels that involves that situation. But as you can see, we're doing really well on these first levels. We're getting perfects across the board. And we are at the final level in Zone 1. Starting on the east section here. We'll give this a go and take a look at. Honestly, I kind of enjoyed this game a lot more than I think I should have. Like, this was fun, and I would play more levels of this. Other than the glitches and some of the issues that I ran into, I still enjoyed the game. So, I mean, again, that's one of the things in my mind that is a testament to how good a game is if you run into glitches and problems and you still want to play the game, then you probably were enjoying the game. So now we have the 4-way intersection. I'm going to change cars here for a second just to show off. So we have a 4-way intersection now. But for the next 10 levels, I believe through level 20, we only have 3 rows of traffic to worry about. Once you get to 21, then you'll have 4 rows of traffic. So, just like before, we're going to start with whatever default row of traffic they give us, and we're going to follow things clockwise around our roads here. So, starting in the east, going south, and this one is fairly straightforward, although it makes me think there's going to be a wreck every time. Don't know why. Now we move on to level 12, which is a little bit of a weird level, back up this white SUV, and we're going to come back to it before we run our simulation. So I'm going to show you the positions of all the other cars, and then we're going to come back to this white SUV. So this is the only level I did this on, and it might be something useful for solving other levels, in all honesty, but we're going to press the right trigger to move our car forward. And once we're just about to the 0 line, we're going to hit A to start the simulation. So go ahead, hit the right trigger. When we get here, press A to start the simulation, and you get a rolling start through the intersection to help get some of your traffic through quicker. You can get a rolling start with any car, so you could use that to solve some of the later levels, probably with a little less headache, but this is the only level I wound up keeping it in on. So yeah, that's all you have to do for that. If you follow my solution, is get a running start with that white SUV, and you can get through and get a perfect on the level. And we're back to normal on level 13. Starting on the east side for level 14. And we start on the north for level 15 here. So we're going to jump to the south next. And then to the west. And once we finish this level, we'll be halfway through. So we're starting on the south here. And again, do your best to make sure that your cars are exactly lined up with mine. Because some of these levels will fail with just a slight difference in positioning. Especially now that we're getting into some of the more difficult ones. Starting on the east here. Going west. And finally north. We start on the east here. Go west. And that's the first level that we finish under the time, but you'll still get a perfect with 9 seconds, so don't worry about it too much. As I said, I believe the perfect is related to cars hit in combo, as long as you do relatively okay in time. Most of the cars can't like go any further back than like finishing with 6 seconds, so I'm pretty sure the perfects are related to cars hit in combo, but as I said, the lowest we ever end scenario is with 7 seconds left, and we do still get the perfect for that. So. Level 20, our final level with only 3 rows of traffic. And you would get your 20 perfects and Zone 2 complete achievements here. We're going to move on, and now we have 4 rows of traffic, and we should always be starting in the east, and again, we'll be rotating clockwise around the rows and roads of traffic. But you're going to notice in these levels that there is usually quite a few cars almost as far back as you can go. So that is a level where the pedestrian might get hit. You may have to restart once or twice, but we were able to get through that run without hitting that pedestrian. It's that last black car at the bottom has a chance to nail her, and luckily we got away with it. Don't have to rerun. I think level 25 is the next one that will have a pedestrian like that, but we'll see. I can't remember exactly which levels are which. Oh, something else to point out. These purple numbers, you may notice it on this level, we'll see. Yeah, perfect. So look at the numbers there. It goes from 100, 115, 110, 115. So keep that in mind if you ever have levels with perfect purple numbers. The numbers are misprinted, miscoded. So it's instead of 105, there's two 115s. So keep that in mind. Shouldn't have really affect too much, but you might look at this and say, okay, car on the 115, and there's two of them. So just make a note of that. I believe this one has a pedestrian that can be frustrating too, but I haven't had an issue with it recently. That fire truck that we showed off at the beginning, there's a pedestrian that's crossing that street and can occasionally run right into the fire truck. So, I generally think you want to take your time when restarting this if you do fail, because I think the faster you restart, the faster pedestrians start moving, which gives you a chance to have the pedestrian run into the truck. And it might go off without a hitch for you. Just if that does happen for you, don't immediately restart. See how the pedestrian got in there faster? We restarted immediately and that pedestrian ran right into the truck. So if you do have to repeat this level, just repeat it and then just sit there for a few seconds. And again, we went off without a hitch this time. So that seems to be the difference in the pedestrians, and what was causing me a lot of trouble is one time I would run it and the pedestrian would get hit, and another time I would run it and they'd be free. And that seems to be related to how quickly you restart your runs. So this is one that will more than likely cause you a restart. So I'm actually going to recommend you do what we just did on the last level. Start it, then immediately hit X and hit A again. So we're going to start it, hit X, hit A as fast as possible. And we'll see if this works. And the pedestrian down there got through, which is the one that normally gets hit. So yeah, if you need a pedestrian to get through something faster... Ooh, but we did get some cars hit. Interesting. Where did that happen? I have no idea, but we ran it again and got through perfectly, so occasionally you might have to do that. That's really weird, though. You would think the cars would hit each other regardless. Maybe they have different startup times with restarting quickly too? I don't know. But anyways, that's how you get the perfect for 25. That was the level that gave me the trouble on my first run. So, if you have any questions about it, obviously reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer whatever questions you may have. Just trying to share my information so you can get your achievements easier. And something, again, worth noting here is we're going to start finishing our runs after this level with less than 10 seconds, but we are still going to be getting perfects. So I think this is the last level that we hit the 10-second mark. This level always terrifies me. It just feels like there should be more collisions. And again, 9 seconds, but that is good enough to be perfect. I will probably repeat that on every level. Just for those who may be popping in to get a certain level solution, that way they know that they are still going to be getting the perfect. Again, we got under the 10 necessary for time left, but we still will be credited with a perfect level, so don't worry about the 9 seconds. Penultimate level, level 29. We're almost through, ladies and gents. And then I will be showing off the grinding methods that I discovered, or I found to be best anyways. As you can see, a couple of these levels have cars as far back as they can possibly go, which means you can't get too much time, like getting a run that lasted the entire 25 seconds is fairly difficult to imagine because you can't push cars any further back. And we hit a pedestrian right off the bat, so we're going to restart and try to get the pedestrian out of the way, and we were successful that time. So that's another one of those levels you need to try to restart and press A to get the pedestrian through quickly, but we did have a collision in there somewhere too. So we have to run it again. Unfortunately, sometimes that happens. But once again, we got through, no collisions, combo meter built up, and we got our 9 seconds, which is good enough to get perfect for the level. So we can move on to the final level, level 30. Level 30 is going to be wrong here. So we need to move this taxi cab back between 35 and 40. I actually had it set up for grinding. I apologize for that. But that is the only change you need to make. Taxi cab between 35 and 40 here, and everything else will be fine as is. We might have to run the simulation a second time and get that taxi cab perfectly placed, but we'll see when we run. And again, this is the level that I finished with 7 seconds, but the achievement for all 30 perfects popped when I finished this level with 7 seconds left. So I don't think time really has that much of an effect on the perfects, and that should be your 30 perfects and completing every level. If you have been following along with my guides here, though, you probably do not have your collisions and your time spent. So I'm going to show you the method I think is best for doing that, and both of them involve level 30. Because level 30, we have an 18-second runtime, repeating level 30 is probably the best way to grind out your time. So all you would do to do that is hit X, hit A, and run the simulation over and over and over again. You're going to be getting 54 seconds per 3 runs, so you're still going to have quite a lot of watching all these cars. Occasionally it drops down to 6 seconds, so if you get 6 seconds and the perfect achievement didn't pop, just run it a couple times until you get it done in 7. But so that's all you're going to do to grind out your time. You obviously have multiple options. You can replay whatever level you want. You could, I believe I mentioned this at the beginning, you can try to use a turbo controller, but if you have a simulation that fails, the turbo controller will not work if you just turbo the A button, because it won't advance to the next level with A. And you can't turbo the X button because pressing the X button in the middle of a run will restart the run. So, but you could take a lot of hands-on time off if you just have a controller turboing and check in on it every once in a while to make sure your solutions didn't fail. Because one of the nice things about this game is that it saves your solutions. So every time you hop back into the level, you have the correct solution set up and can instantly run it to complete the level and move on. So that's why turboing from level 1 could work once you've completed the game. But you're not going to get too much in the way of time spent. It's not significantly faster to do that over anything else. You just will have, if the turboing works and all of your simulations go off without a hitch, then you just have less time spent staring at the screen. But even if you use the turbo, I do recommend checking in on it, especially around those levels where we had the pedestrian problems, because those ones are likely to fail the first time. So, what are we going to do for collisions? Well, collisions are much easier. All you're going to do is move your yellow taxi cab all the way forward, and there's going to be a collision in the middle of the road, and then every car will join in. And then all you're going to do is press X and press A. And you'll get like 3 to 4 collisions, I think, per run. So, and you get a little bit of time per run. So it's not a bad idea to grind this out before you do the time achievement as well. But it really doesn't make too much of a difference. You're not sitting here. I think you get like, looks like 7 seconds per run, so it's not a lot of grinding. And if you're getting 4 collisions per run, you know, it's probably not going to take you more than 15 to 20 minutes to grind out the remaining collisions you need for the 50 and 250 achievements. But that's it, ladies and gents. That's all of the information I have for you for Perfect Traffic Simulator. If you have any questions or comments for me, let me know down below. I'm more than happy to answer them. Just trying to share some information so that everyone can get their achievements a little bit easier. Like, share, subscribe. Check out my website, legwalkthroughs.com. I have a lot more achievement content over there. But if you don't have anything for me, ladies and gents, then I will see you in the next achievement guide that I make, whatever that might be. And I appreciate you guys checking me out. Thanks.